taught to look inside ourselves and know why we wish to be who we wish to be, and why we want to wear what we want to wear. So what are your beliefs? Who are you? We want to unveil that now. We had all those years where all the nonsense was put upon us, and now we're hitting that time in our lives where we're saying, I want to know more about me. I want to feel free. I want to speak spontaneously and about myself. I want to be heard. I want to be known. I want to feel an integral part of each and every relationship that I am in. And if that's the way we feel today, then we must learn to speak from self and not from other. So last week we talked about that dualistic model of this life where we know there is a self and there is an other. And that imagination, illusion, that there is a separation between self and other. And as we grow, we start to take on everything we learned and everything that was put upon us by other, and it becomes a part of how we perceive the world and how we communicate. So today we're going to talk about that communication and how do you know when you're talking from that self inside versus the other. When I teach that our language is a self-other language because we think it's coming from us, but really it's coming from everything we learned. So when we start to look at mastery, we want to tease those two pieces apart. We want to tease apart self from other so that we know and can discern what is of us in truth and what is it that was put upon us, maybe creating beliefs that no longer serve us but that we're still buying into. What is it that we are still saying that isn't about us but is about another person, or it's what we should be saying, or it's built upon an assumption, or we've bought into somebody else's assumption. All of that stuff is not of your truth, which means it came from another source or it came from other. So how do we know? How do we know when we're talking from ourself? That has to be you knowing your inner experience, right? So right now, breathe in and follow your breath in. Feel your breath fill your lungs, and then feel the lungs collapse and feel yourself exhale. Be conscious of that breath. Now you have an awareness of self, right? You can feel that physical body. So you don't know the self, but you can feel the physical body and you're inside. So as you're inside now, when we speak, and when we come from speaking of our truth, we can actually feel a vibration down behind our belly button, right around the belly button to the diaphragm. And that says that we've opened ourselves to our inner experience and our inner self. We are talking from our head, and our head is really where we've learned things. And those learned things are not necessarily our truth. They're those things that have been put upon us. They might be expectations. So we want to tease that apart. Again, what am I feeling? Am I in a state of comfort or discomfort? If I'm in a state of discomfort, then that's not me. That's the stuff that I've learned. That's my fear, it's part of the illusion of this life, right? If I'm not comfortable, I'm not standing inside my truth. So when we're speaking, we're listening for certain words, like we might listen for should or have to. Then we may also be looking at things that are our perception. How are we seeing things? Are they creating assumptions about the world around us? How do we see ourselves? Are we assuming that others don't like us or that they don't want to be around us? Those are also things that we've learned from outside. So that's all other, right? But we also know we're speaking other when we tell somebody else about them, because we learn to communicate that way. That's not who we are. That's not our truth. That might be your opinion, right? But it's not your truth. If I'm teaching you about me, and I know what's going on inside me, now I'm tapping my truth. I might be tapping the truth of the discomfort as well, but I'm telling you what's going on inside me, not because you caused it, because you didn't cause it necessarily. Your actions, words, behaviors, whatever, might have elicited an old wound in me and causing me to have uncomfortable feelings. I will teach you about me. But as soon as I start telling you about you, I've stepped into speaking from the other pocket, that learned pocket. So we want to, if you're looking at mastery, and in particular self-mastery as well, you really want to start to know you. And as you know you, you want the world to know you. And that's really why we're teasing apart self versus other. Because when we learned to communicate, we were told how to think and what to believe and what to wear and how to behave. And we followed all these rules. But we weren't taught to look inside ourselves and know why we wish to be who we wish to be and why we want to wear what we want to wear, right? So what are your beliefs? Who are you? We want to unveil that now, right? We had all those years where all the nonsense was put upon us, and now we're hitting that time in our lives where we're saying, I want to know more about me. I want to feel free. I want to speak spontaneously and about myself. I want to be heard. I want to be known. I want to feel an integral part of each and every relationship that I am in. And if that's the way we feel today, then we must learn to speak from self and not from other. So again, other is that pocket inside where we learned to meet the expectations of others. It's where we learn to tell others about them. So we can't be known and heard if we're telling them about them. So how do we turn that around? How do we start to know ourselves well enough that we're attuned, much like following our breath into our lungs, we are attuned to how we're feeling inside so that now we can teach the world who we are. Now we're speaking from self. So I might be feeling uncomfortable in a particular situation, and I want you to know I'm feeling uncomfortable, and that might be all I know I feel, but at least I say it. I'm really uncomfortable right now. I don't know why, but I know I'm uncomfortable. Now, if that other person takes it personally, I haven't said anything about that other person. I just am saying I'm uncomfortable. I might just be feeling a little bit of angst because of something unrelated to that other person. So I have to know that I'm feeling uncomfortable. Now, if that other person feels a sense of defensiveness, I may say, no, this isn't about that. I didn't mean to make you feel defensive. This is about me. I really just feel uncomfortable right now, and I'm not sure why. I might reiterate that, right? Because it's about self. My words now, my language now is about self. And it's coming from that point of reference that's inside me that is aware of the experience I'm having. And so I am sharing that with you. I'm teaching you about me. Now, let's imagine that you just said something and you were talking really negative about a mutual friend. And I say, oh, I'm feeling really uncomfortable. And maybe you get a little defensive. And I'm like, no, it's okay. I think I just feel uncomfortable when we're talking about somebody who's not here in a not so positive light, because I feel uncomfortable with a kind of a gossipy feeling. But if you tell me what's going on inside you, that I'd like to know. Tell me why you're feeling the way you're feeling. What can I do to know more about your experience and you, right? Now, we don't obviously talk just like that, but you can see that what I'm doing there in the example is I'm taking it away from talk about a third party, which is uncomfortable for me because it's gossipy and it's negative and it's destructive to that person who is not here with us. But I do want to know about you. So teach me what's going on inside you. Maybe you had a bad experience and it really felt uncomfortable for you in that experience with this third person. Well, teach me that. Tell me about you. Tell me what's going on inside you so I can learn more about you. Now maybe I can help you know yourself better. And maybe I can help you move beyond that challenge. But I can't do any of it if who we're talking about is a person who isn't even here. I want to know about you. How you feel, how you breathe, what makes you sing. That's you teaching me about you. I will explore you if you let me. If we're caught up in other, we're always talking about the external world. We're not talking about the internal world. So another thing you can keep in mind is, am I talking about external things or am I talking about the internal me? If you're talking about external things, you're caught up in other. If you're talking about you, you're talking about self. So let's start to open up our consciousness to how we're communicating. When I'm teaching partners how to communicate, this becomes really important because when we are in a partnership and we're assuming and not exploring, we're kind of halting that relationship because our assumptions are fixed inside us. That other person may be changing. So if in fact we're exploring our partner on a regular basis and teaching our partner on a regular basis about us, yourself, and the partner is doing exactly the same, teaching you about them and exploring you for who you are. Now the partnership can grow infinitely. As long as you're together, it will grow because you're in a constant adventure of exploring life and exploring one another together. But when we assume, we shut those doors. When we set expectations on how we want them to behave to make us happy, we shut those doors. So we are talking from other with assumption and expectation. We are talking from self when we're teaching about ourselves and exploring our other person, whether that's a partner or a friend. You're always communicating from other when you're speaking from what you've learned, what's been put upon you in this lifetime, the expectations, the assumptions, the way the world is expecting you to be in some way. You're talking from self when you're teaching the world who you are. If you're giving the world opinions, you're speaking from other because your opinions are coming from what should be, right? Everybody has this free will and they are who they are. So your opinions are your opinions. That's not your truth. You may say that you're speaking your truth when you tell somebody how they're behaving, but that's not your truth. You're speaking from that other pocket because you're telling somebody about them. You're also always speaking from other when you're speaking about external things. So when you listen to your words, if you hear yourself talking about the external person or external things, you're talking about other. When you're speaking about your own self, it's coming from the inside. It's more intrinsic. It's a more intrinsic experience being expressed outwardly. So internal, external is another way to listen and to know from where your language is coming. You also, just in general, want to always know your experience, right? People know I say this all the time. And when you know your experience, if you can speak from that place inside you, then you're always going to be teaching the world about you. So you're going to be staying pretty consistently inside the self. It gets difficult. There are going to be times where you say something to someone else, and at the beginning, what I'm saying to you isn't easy. So at the beginning, it can be very, very clumsy. But overall, you want to start to listen inside yourself as a part of your mastery to where your language is coming from. Is it coming from everything that's been put upon you in this life? Is it coming from that other pocket? Or is it of self and just the truth of you and the experience you're having on this plane at this time? It opens doors. It gives you freedom. It allows your world to be set free from the limitations of the external world and open you to the limitlessness of the truth of who you are. May each of you enjoy exploring life from the inside out and teaching everyone the truth of who you are, especially yourself. Thank you so much for joining me, and please visit KristenBomas.com where you can easily access all of my social circles.